This is the Church of St. Paul in the Desert.
May the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be always acceptable in your sight, O God, our strength and our Redeemer. One of the things that new seminarians learn when they start studying New Testament Greek is that in Greek there are 4 different words for love. And new Christians, seminarians, get all excited about this. And so they really work at making significant distinctions between these kinds of love. You know, there's the intimate love between spouses. There's familial love. There is the self-offering love that we associate with Jesus. So there's several different kinds of love. Well, my minor in college was classical Greek. So before I ever read the New Testament in Greek, I was already translating Plato. And so I had a different perspective when I began reading. And so one of the things that I realized was that just because there's different words for love, and each of those words has some different meaning, it doesn't mean that they aren't also just love. And the reason for this, it's kind of rhetorical. It is something about the way the Greeks liked to write and the way that they liked to speak. They liked to be very descriptive. So what they would do is they would take a subject and they would use one word to talk about it in this paragraph, and then in the next they'd use a different word of the same kind, love, but describing a different angle. It's as if you thought about the flowers there, or a set of flowers here. You see the flowers and you're describing a particular color about the flowers. And as you walk around the flowers, you see that in the light and in the shadow, that color is changed a little bit. So you change the word. Dare I say, like blue to cerulean or something like that. And as you walk around these flowers and you're using these different words that are really all about the same general color, you're building this full description, this full idea of what that set of flowers really looks like. That's why they use so many words for love. In our gospel today, there are 5 different words used for seeing. It says at the beginning that the day after he had baptized him, John saw Jesus walking. And the disciples saw Jesus and they followed him. And John beheld him and we watched him and they looked at. There's 5 different words used that all could be translated as seeing. You should thank me now. I'm not going to go through all those words in Greek. And even though some of them sound really cool, I'm not going to go through that. Just will you trust me that there are 5 words? But I want to ask you, is there anybody here who feels like sometimes somebody looked at you but didn't really see you? Do you see what I mean? I've been there. The number of words for seeing are a part of the author, John's Gospel, building this sense of how important seeing is in the Gospel of John. Because there are lots of people that look at Jesus and they miss the point. There are people who see Jesus and get it. There's John the Baptist who beholds Jesus and becomes a witness. There are the disciples of John who see Jesus, they behold John's testimony, and they follow. And they don't just follow, they grab anybody else they can and say, come with us. Now, I want you to know that I have to talk about this because they use Andrew in this. And so, because I don't want to, but because they use Andrew, I have to talk about that. But Andrew is the first kind of evangelist. He went and got his brother. So, do you see how useful all these words are for seeing, to help us understand what John is talking about seeing and knowing and understanding and believing and following Jesus? Today, in addition to being the second Sunday after the Epiphany, it's also in the Episcopal Church the feast day for Martin Luther King Jr. We always do this on Sunday for this celebration, even though the national holiday is on Monday. But Martin Luther King's celebration is a day when we recognize Dr. King for all of his work in moving forward civil rights. And at the time of Dr. King, and even to this day, one of the critical pieces to be dealt with in civil rights is racism. And one of the things about racism is that racism is one of those words. And one of those words that it really takes a lot of words for us to figure out what racism is all about. And so I want to talk a little bit about this because, and I'm going to use two movies, one current and one a little bit older, to give you some reflection on this. A current movie right now is Hidden Figures. Okay, and that's about 3 African American women who become crucial components of NASA and the first space shot. And I assume that they didn't just retire them after that space shot, and they were crucial for a lot of that work. Okay, and the other movie is the movie The Help. Do you remember that? I saw The Help, but I haven't yet seen Hidden Figures. So what I'm talking about is from a review that I heard on NPR. And the person who was reviewing, I can't even tell you his name, but he has a really deep and gorgeous voice in what he talked about, was talking about The Help and how The Help has a perspective on racism that is really quite traditional. And that is that you've got this setting. The story is such that Emma Stone is the young white woman who comes back to this place in the South, and she sorts everything out for everybody. And the racism in that movie, which most of us would probably say, oh, that's racism, is something where it's polarized, where the people who are the victims of it are good people, and the people who are the racist folks are obviously bad people. The good people who are not black, they aren't people you'd consider racist. But it's the bad people, and the racism is very obvious because they're doing things that none of us would do. In Hidden Figures, there's one scene that is described. And the scene is where the character, and I believe it's Taraji P. Hinton, where she is talking with her coworkers, and she's letting them know about her reality, that she has to walk a half a mile to go to the bathroom because there are no bathrooms for colored women in their part of the base. So she has to walk all that way to use the bathroom. And the response from everybody was, we never thought about that. And that is racism, as is experienced by most of us in this room. It's something we never thought about. I can remember being raised with the idea that I'd be part of a colorblind society. Have any of you ever heard that? Problem is that nobody told me that people like me are the only ones that it's safe to be a colorblind society for. Because we never thought about it. We are blind to color because we never had to see it. I'm still playing with this idea, but what I think I want to strive for is a colorful society where the colors of people, the national origins, the religions, are all aspects of people and aspects of our community. And as we walk around and look at them, we have other colors and other ways of describing, so that at the end of the day, we see this gorgeous bouquet, this arrangement that's full, not because we were blind to the colors, but because we were able to appreciate and describe them carefully. I think I've used this analogy before, but at the same time that I used to be thinking about a colorblind society, I was aspiring to be tolerant. We spend a lot of time with tolerance education, and I went to a school board conference years ago, and it was a presentation by a group called GLSEN, which is Gay, Lesbian, Educators, Students. I don't know exactly what the right terms are, but it had a meter, and the meter went from here to here. Tolerance was right in the middle. Hate was all the way over here. But tolerance was only halfway. Love, acceptance, nurture, that was on the right. And so the person who was leading it said, it's not enough to aspire to tolerance. How many of you would want to be married to somebody who merely tolerated you? The challenge for us is to move beyond tolerance to love, acceptance. And to do that, we cannot stay with just looking. We have to see. We have to understand. We have to come to know. We need to follow Jesus in his reaching out and his welcoming of all people. And then we need to do the same thing. Reach out and welcome. Just as I mentioned, the doors of our church are quite large. And they fit walls that don't fit someplace else. And I think walls are kind of out of vogue right now. But a display that couldn't be placed in our parish hall, which is otherwise gorgeous. We can open wide these doors and have a display. And the work of young people from our valley, as they reflect on what to them is the legacy of Dr. King, and as they appropriate for themselves how they will reach out and try to bring our community along with them, those wide doors allow us to welcome virtually anybody in. And those wide doors are there to send us out. To send us out so that we become people who not only look but see. Not only follow Jesus, but welcome others to follow Jesus as well. Amen.